Hello Mason Nation and welcome to Mason Sports Insider. As always, I am your host, Tyler Byrum. This week was a winning one for George Mason, going 12-6-1, one of the most winning weeks of the year. It also features numerous athletes being recognized for their accomplishments of the George Mason Athletic Department. In the first conference award of the week went to Hunter Stevens of the men's volleyball team, being selected as the EIVA Defensive Player of the Week after the team beat St. Francis and lost to Penn State. During the weekend, he totaled 8 total blocks, bringing his total on the season to 60, the highest on the team, 4th in the EIVA. His average of .91 blocks per set is also 5th in the conference. As a team, they would take on Grand Canyon Antelopes for a 2-game series this past weekend. In the first game, Mason had a tough start, falling in the first set 20-25 with errors causing their demise. But after that point, redshirt sophomore Jack Wilson took over, recording 17 kills and 5 service aces as the team reeled out 3 set victories in a row. Getting playing time in the rotation, Weston Barnes and Herman DeGenario worked themselves into the normal strict 7-man rotation. Radoslav Popov and Paco Velez both received double digits in kills and digs, with 12 and 10 for Popov and 10-11 respectively for Velez in the 3-1 Mason victory.
How do you think you did that game as a team?
So at first, the first set we didn't start that well, probably because of the warm-up. But after that we felt that we can beat them, so we showed our game, our best. So we were the better team. We served well, we improved our blocking from the second set to the end, so we showed the best one we can get.
Yeah, it looked like in the first set you guys were a little timid. You started out a little slow and made some errors, but yeah, especially in the third and fourth sets, you guys were blocking everything. Hunter Stevens, Defensive Player of the Week last week, along with you and Graham Gresham, and pretty much a team effort out there, just a lot of blocks.
Yeah, that's probably the most important part of the game. If you don't start well, you must have the confidence to start playing. That's more important even in the game.
In the game 2 nights later, numerous players got to experience playing as 10 players were about to hit the court. Of the 10, 7 players recorded a kill, and leading them was Jack Wilson with 14. For the match, Mason dominated, barely letting the Antelopes lead at all during the game. With the dominance that the Patriots were displaying, head coach Chow only called 1 timeout, and it being after a 5-1 run by Grand Canyon in the second set. After the timeout, Mason responded with a 7-3 run, taking the second set and eventually the third to sweep the Antelopes in the match.
What's it like when you're in the zone like that, able to get 14 kills?
I mean, it just feels great. It feels like everything's going your way and feels like nothing can go wrong. And you're just thinking it, I don't know, as you said, you're just in a whole other zone, and it's great. I feel like most of us were in it tonight, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially you, though, because, I mean, it seemed like everything that got set up, even if it was a little bit awkward, didn't really matter. You were still able to get the kills.
Yeah.
But as we get ready, we have about 4 games left in the season before we get into EIVA conference tournament play. What are some of the things that the team will work on as they get ready for the tournament?
We just have to continue working on our serving and our passing game. Really, I think we can compete and beat anybody that we play as long as our serving and our passing game is on point. And so just as long as we continue to work on our serving and putting up the passes high so Brian can go up and run the offense, I think we'll be fine.
With 2 straight victories on the season, Mason improves to their best record on the season at 500, being 11-11 on the year. Remaining 4-4 in EIVA, the team holds the final spot that receives a postseason bid. Meanwhile, nationally ranked preseason favorite and reigning EIVA champions Penn State clinched the first spot in the conference tournament. Needing a successful week to get back on track for the season, the Mason baseball team hosted Mount St. Mary's to open up the week. Mason, hoping to get the offense going early, Patriots scored 2 runs in the bottom of the first and tallied 2 more in the fourth. Opening up the scoring even more in the sixth, Mason was able to score 4 runs with only 2 hits. The hits being from Brandon Gum, who went 2 for 4 on the day, and Jake Kalish put the Patriots up 8-0. The pitching trio of Mark Massimo, who started the game, Tyler Cardas, and Riley Coverdale shut out Mount St. Mary's, yielding 4 hits and no runs. The Patriots got the victory 8-0. The team then headed to Towson in what was going to be one of the wildest games on the year. Starting out the game, Mason got a 4-0 lead thanks to RBI singles by both Brady Acker and Tyler Nellen. Towson would climb eventually back and make it a 9-6 advantage after 5 innings. Luke Willis then would lead the Patriots to score 5 in the 6th as he knocked a home run out of the park that scored 2 runs. Towson, however, would not give up in the fight and bring it back to have a 13-11 lead as the Patriots were facing the final out with Ray Toto at the plate. Toto would then hit it towards the third base side and it was sure to be the final out, but thanks to a throwing error, he was able to reach first base. Then Luke Willis would come up and make them pay, sending his second home run of the game out of the park, resulting in a 13-13 tie in this non-conference matchup. Moving on to the big weekend series against VCU, Mason was hoping to climb back up the A10 ladder. In the opening game, Jake Kalish was on the mound and was able to pitch the entire game, yielding only 1 run in the process to the Rams. Offensively, Brandon Gum hit a solo shot in the 6th inning to really open up the scoring, while Tyler Nellen went 2 for 4 on the day with 4 RBIs. This netted an 8-1 victory over the Rams in Game 1. As the tide then turned into the second game, Mason, who was the team blown out rather than the Rams. VCU starter JoJo Howie was able to complete 8 strong innings against the Green and Gold, allowing only 1 run to score, the run being scored by Gum off an RBI from Acker. For the Patriots, John Williams got the start, but got lit up and only lasted an inning and 2/3 with 6 runs being allowed going towards his total. VCU would go on to win the game 9-1. In the final game of the series, both teams came out for the only matchup that was not a blowout. On the mound for the game was Tyler Zombro, who lasted 5 innings, allowing 7 hits and 3 runs. In the back and forth matchup, Kent Blackstone brought home 3 RBIs as the team recorded 11 hits. Holding a 7-4 lead heading to the bottom of the 9th, Mason was barely able to hold on to surging Rams, who led off the frame with a triple and eventually tallied 2 runs, but fall 7-6 as Mason would take the series. Mason's record now improves to 5-7 in the Atlantic 10 with a 14-18-1 overall record. Still far behind in the conference, the Patriots have to string together a series of wins in order to defend their Atlantic 10 championship. Now in the midst of A10 play, the men's tennis team traveled to Richmond for a match against the Spiders. Starting out strong in doubles, the Patriots were able to claim the point due to wins by the number 1 and 3 teams. Unfortunately, the result was not the same in the singles matches as Richmond took the top 4 matches against the Patriots and the only victory coming by Daniel Gutierrez in the number 6 spot. The final result of the match was 4-2. Transitioning to senior day to face Mount St. Mary's, the team finished on a high note. The team was able to win every matchup in both singles and doubles, all of the singles matches being in 2 sets. Joe Hill was the only Patriot to complete a full sweep in his match, winning 6-0, 6-0 at the number 3 singles spot. The team's record is now 9-10 with only 1 week remaining in the regular season. For the women's tennis team, they opened up a busy weekend as they traveled to St. Joseph's for another in-conference matchup. This competition was hotly contested on both sides and made every match pivotal. Fortunately for Mason, they got off to a quick lead, winning in doubles in the number 2 and 3 courts, holding a slight advantage for the team. That advantage would prove to be pivotal as the team split the remaining singles matches. The match came down to the number 6 court as Eju Erdenbat was playing Arain Potalenik, where the winner would determine the winner of the match. Battling back after losing the first set, Erdenbat won the second set in dominating fashion, 6-2, and forced Potalenik to retire due to an injury in the final set, giving Mason a 4-3 victory. In their second of a 3-game match on the weekend, the Patriots took on Monmouth. This match, not being as nearly stressful as the last, as the team won 8 of the 9 matches. This resulted in the team's 6th victory in a row, moving up to an impressive 15-7 on the season. Then came Mount St. Mary's on Sunday as the Patriots were able to completely sweep the team also on their senior day, extending that winning streak to 7 on the year. Every match was completely controlled by the Patriots, keeping the spirit of sweeps. Number 2 singles Brittany Pilkington swept her match, also 6-0, 6-0. The regular season ends with a 16-7 record as they will now compete in the Atlantic 10 tournament later in the week. The women's lacrosse team are currently attempting to make a surprise run in the Atlantic 10 this year, writing off a huge win against the Explorers last week. Trying to ride off that momentum that the team took on A10 newcomer Davidson to start the weekend. This game was not your traditional lacrosse game that was very low scoring and was described as a soggy night in North Carolina. Mason opened up the scoring with 2 goals, one from Melissa Lobocaro, and then this second one being from the team leader in goals, Jacqueline Spaulding. Davidson would then go on for a 4-goal streak to take a 4-2 lead with 14 minutes to go in the first half. Coming out at halftime with the game tied, Davidson would quickly take another lead, this time 7-6, and hold a lead until the final buzzer blew, netting a 9-7 victory for the Wildcats. In total, Spalding would add to her goal total on the season with a hat trick, as Alexa McGovern also recorded 2 goals. The loss then forced a must-win game at home against Richmond on Sunday. Coming into this matchup, the Spiders were 4-0 in Atlantic 10 play, battling with Massachusetts for the top spot in the conference. Richmond, looking to run away with the game, started with a goal in the opening minute, but 3 successive goals by the team leaders in McGovern, McGinn, and Spalding netted a 3-1 lead. With the run going into the second half, the Spiders scored 3 goals as well, holding a slight 4-3 lead. But not bowing down to the pressure, the Patriots were able to score 5 of the final 6 goals in the match, with all of those goals being scored by separate players. Taylor Carpentier was able to come up with 4 huge saves in the final stretch of play, as she would record 13 saves on the day. This all resulted in a huge 8-5 victory for Mason, keeping them as a team to beat in order to make the Atlantic 10 postseason. The team is now 8-5 overall, 3-2 in the conference, solidifying their position in the top half of the standings. Looking at the standings, Mason now holds the tiebreakers against LaSalle and Richmond as the season moves on. The softball team traveled to George Washington for an A-10 doubleheader to start the week. Picking up the action in the 4th of the first game, Brooke Blankenship hit a 2-run homer that sent home Liz Seymour, giving the Patriots a 2-0 lead. After GW took the lead in the 5th, Seymour hit a home run herself, tying the game up at 3. In extra innings, Blankenship sent up a sac fly that would score Mary O'Connor, as Mason would win the first game 4-3. Moving on to the second game, George Washington took a 2-1 lead after the opening inning. Mason would eventually tie it up, but the Colonials would strike again to take the game 3-2. Angela Maorian would record 2 RBIs in the game, one off a walk in a bases-loaded situation, and the other in a fielder's choice. Traveling to St. Bonaventure for the A-10 series of the weekend, the team looked to climb in the Atlantic 10 standings. However, in the first matchup, that had to be put on hold as the Bonnies jumped to a 7-0 lead after 2 innings. Attempting to come back, Brianna Boyd hit a sac fly to score Seymour, as Seymour would tally a 2-run homer later in the game to bring the run total to 7-3. For the rest of the game, Mason would not be able to surpass the deficit, as the team would go on to lose 11-3. Falling in the second game 8-7, Seymour hit another home run as she tallied 4 RBIs on the game, adding on for Mason. Casey Price and Brenna Boyd both knocked homers as well. Despite the scoring surge, the Bonnies were able to rally and then score 3 runs in the final frame to take the game 8-7. Moving to the final game of the series, Mason scored 6 runs in the first inning, with Price, Sarah Solano, and Mackenzie Jones bringing in the RBIs. Starting in the circle, Christina Gabrielle pitched a complete game, striking out 7 batters and letting only 1 run come across. The team now stands at 7-7 in the A-10, 14-21 overall, with huge games forthcoming. Mason has a perfect opportunity to make their first Atlantic 10 postseason appearance for softball. With last weekend being the spread out to 3 different competitions, 4 members of the outdoor track and field team were recognized by the Atlantic 10 earlier in the week. Sean Doherty earned Men's Co-Performer of the Week after taking first in the pole vault and setting a personal record of 4.85 meters. Bethany Shattle being also earned the Co-Performer of the Week for the women after breaking the school record in the 10,000 meter, that is the 11th highest in the country. Both Taylor Sharp and Xavier King Jr. both recognized as Rookie Performers of the Week for their personal records in the 400-meter dash. The USTFCCCA then released their initial outdoor rankings for the season in the Southeast region. For Mason, the women's track and field team came in as the 14th team in the region. Moving to the Mason Spring Invitational, the home competition for the team, Mason was able to set the tone. In the 110 hurdles, Anthony Williams was able to jump onto Mason's all-time list in 7th place with a time of 13.93 seconds, while Ryan Williams hit a 51.8 meter in the javelin throw, 4th best in program history. Taylor Sharp for the women won the 200-meter dash with a personal record of 24.07 seconds, while Michelle Walderstadt won the discus throw with a mark of 48.11. Numerous Patriots at this invitational were able to claim postseason spots. Mentioned before, Anthony Williams qualified for his mark in the 110 meters, as well as Stephen Flynn in the 1500-meter run, Siobhan Briscoe in the 100 and 400-meter hurdles, Summer Sharp also in the 100-meter hurdles, and Walderstadt's performance also netted a postseason nod that nearly doubles the amount of Patriots that will be eligible to enter and attend the IC4A or the ECAC championships. The golf team traveled to Liberty's Spring Invitational this past weekend, competing in the 18-team tournament. With a 940 score for the weekend through 3 rounds, the Patriots finished 16th. The top golfer for the team was freshman Brock Kovac, who tied for 62nd on the tournament. He also scored the lowest round score in the second round with a 73. The rowing team traveled to New Jersey for the Knight Cup. Due to weather delays, there was much confusion of the overall schedule of the event and resulted in a difficult weekend for the team. Despite the complications, Mason progressed their times and had great results on the weekend. In the women's novice 8 competition, Mason finished 5th in the petite final, which put them at 10th overall for the weekend. And in the second varsity 8 competition, Mason advanced to 3rd final, resulting in a 2nd place finish. These results improved the times for a majority of boats compared to the Occoquan sprints and showed the progress the team has made thus far in the season. And finally, to end the show, Aaron Kelly has been named a new assistant coach for the men's basketball program. Kelly joins the new head coach, Dave Paulson, who worked together at Bucknell for the previous 7 seasons. The pair originally met at Williams College back in 2007, both serving in the same role they hold now. Kelly graduated from Catholic University in D.C. and led his team to the NCAA tournaments in 2003, 2004, and 2006. Well, that will end this week's edition of Mason Sports Insider. Here is this week's upcoming schedule. On Monday, the men's tennis team will host Georgetown at 2:30. On Tuesday, the baseball team will also play the Hoyas at Georgetown at 7 o'clock. On Wednesday, the baseball team will return home for a matchup against Towson at 3:30. The women's tennis team will also participate in the A10 championships in Charlottesville from Thursday to Monday, hoping to keep their season alive. On Friday and Saturday, the track and field team will split duties at either the Michael Johnson Invitational in Waco, Texas, or the Larry Ellis Invitational in Princeton, New Jersey. Moving back to baseball, they will host Canisius for a 3-game out-of-conference series from Friday to Sunday. At 4 o'clock on Friday, the women's lacrosse team will host St. Bonaventure, while the men's volleyball team travels to Harvard for a game at 7. On Saturday, the golf team heads to the Wolfpack Spring Open, while the softball team starts a 3-game series that will last until Sunday. Continuing on Saturday, the men's tennis team will play George Washington at 3 o'clock. The men's volleyball team will play Sacred Heart at 4. Closing out the weekend, the rowing team will host Delaware and UNC, and the men's tennis team will play in their last regular season match against Duquesne. If you don't know it by now, you can follow me personally on Twitter. And as always, I am your host, Tyler Byrum, and I'll see you next time, Mason.